So I had a couple of goals in mind for today that would be worth doing. I wanted to make some patterns. I got my Cheerios boxes out and my scissors. Wanted to make some patterns to fill in some of the holes, the gaps in the frame. I also wanted to check the adhesion on the paint, and that was one of the final things on this little paint testing that we've been doing with the wheel. I did an extensive little test of how that paint was adhering. I showed the way I make patterns, and the way I make patterns is pretty much the way you would do it if you were a modeler or a machinist. It's a pretty cut and dry thing, but it's handy to know if somebody wants to make a pattern for a custom part. I like to make the parts rather than buy them if at all possible, but that's just me. And this was a part that I'm going to use. I'm going to make some carbon fiber in the next couple days and make that part out of carbon fiber. So I always say I hate to have a life of Groundhog Days. Well, today's not going to be Groundhog Day. I wake up this morning, I thought, wow, I took my Cheerios boxes, cut up some things. I was going to come out here, make some patterns for some carbon fiber parts I want to make in the future. And I thought, wow, it's just going to be a beautiful day. Craig is still here. He's cooking up custom breakfast and pierogies and everything for everybody. I thought everything is predictable. Everything is on track. I look out my kitchen window, and there's an egret this big by my pond looking like he's ready to eat my fish. So the whole day is now, I got to do something about that egret. So I got all my Cheerios boxes, and I thought, oh, here I do. I got plenty of paper. I got paper. I got my scissors. I'm ready to make a pattern. There's a couple of parts on this I might or might not want to work on in the future and make out of carbon fiber. So surprise two today, as I'm thinking how I'm going to deal with this egret. Karen's looking up on the internet how to get rid of an egret. You can't in any way hurt them, of course, and I don't want to, needless to say. I feed the birds. So we do have a solution. I'm going to try to show it on video. But the first thing is how unpredictable this is. I got the wheel drying in silver, the test wheel. I'm happy with it. John emailed me this morning these logos on the side of the bike. He's come up with some custom ideas. I'm all excited, but that egret, the number one thing, I got to make sure that egret doesn't eat my fish. Now, I've had the pond, Karen reminded me, 27 years, and because Craig is here, he helped me dig the pond. And in 27 years, we've had 3 egret visits, but 2 of them have been in the last 2 weeks. So as I'm looking at this now, if I had prepped the wheel, if I was going to use it, and I got a lot of people who would take it just the way it is even. But there are some defects in the paint because I didn't sand it all. But the paint, here's the big important thing. The paint is dried like iron. It's iron. You can pound on it and everything. And that's what I wanted. Because as I'm mounting tires, and I do it all by hand try to never use tools on them. And, well, you've seen that on video many times. But this looks like, I would say right now, and it's going to dry. This is not even 24 hours drying. That this is one of the most successful paint tests I've ever done. And it looks like the color looks great, even without getting it out in the bright sun, and it's raining today. It's going to rain any minute. So I'm going to live to fight another day here. So it looks like all the priorities, I start out the day thinking I'm going to make patterns and make carbon fiber, and I'm going to play egret removal or something. But the first thing I'll do is I'll verify, I'll look online, check with YouTube for what other people have done. Now, some people say you can hang pie pans, make a scarecrow. You're supposed to get a fake egret, but I have these sound things that discouraged the groundhog when we had the groundhog, and because I'm trying to share information, and several of my friends, Chuck Holsapple, Dave Midgley among them, have ponds. This might be good information because once I set these machines up, the sound machines, if the egret is there by the sound machine, I know it didn't work. It says it works on the directions. I guess we're going to find out in the next week or so, because it seems like he's here on a regular basis now. But one of the things I did want to accomplish was to have the brightest possible silver without being chrome. Now I can see already, even on the fluorescent lights, the garage is all fluorescent. That color is going to sparkle in the sun, that's for sure. And that's paste pigment with 4:1 urethane. I think it's ultimately going to be brighter when I put them side by side after they're buffed and everything. But I think that the last week we spent testing paint, I might have just come up with something that's going to work for me. Hey, maybe it'll work for you too. Now, I'm so glad I spent that day doing the pigment test and eliminated, because I had 6 or 8 different pigments. I tested 4 and came up with the paste pigment as being the brightest. Looks like I made a good decision. It was worth it. And keep in mind that silver on the R1, those wheels are on our channel in detail. And to look at it, you just type in my name in quotation marks and custom wheels, and they will be one of the ones that come up. I couldn't be happier. Now, test and paint, it's a lot of work, believe me. I spent probably a whole week with that test wheel, but what I've got now is I've got a real square one to reference from. So this was the goal originally today. I wanted to make a pattern. I wanted to show how to make a correct pattern for that. And I wanted to make a little carbon fiber cover that probably would be an exact match to the carbon fiber that we made this piece up here and the parts that hold the windshield back like that. The new windshield, the extra windshield, I'm going to paint blue or part blue, is already left China. I already got that email, probably be here in 2 or 3 weeks. But making that pattern, since I have to deal with this egret, we're not going to have time to do that today. But this logo here, I wanted to show some people what I have in mind. This is from an artistic point of view. If you look at that, look at it real close, and a lot of people like that. I personally don't, but I'm going to come up with something a lot better, that's for sure. John is, and then I take full credit for it. If you look at this side, you see how it accents that lower point? And you don't have to cut anything off? Well, to make that happen on the other side, you need to flip the letters backwards. Well, apparently Yamaha didn't like that idea. And I don't like the idea they cut that piece off. And what they should have done is take this exact thing in a computer and flip it backwards. And what happens is then that point accents there. And we're ultimately going to paint this either blue or shiny black anyway, but that's after the wheels. But John's already working on it. And John Pothier, you are the best. But look at that. Now see how that point accents it? Well, it's 1,000 little details like that make for a beautiful custom bike or something that looks like a log. When I made this piece here, and that's on the video too of this restoration, I didn't think you'd even see it because at the time I had a black windshield. Well, the black windshield was holding that back. When I put the clear windshield on, I love the way that looks. Now, the way the logos, everything matches. That logo is going to hopefully match. The silver on the wheels will match the logo. These are the little details, and Thomas Luciano did the computer work on this. He made the patterns and thing out of vinyl, and that's all paint. There is no stickers on this bike. There's no stickers anywhere. It's all paint, and it all comes from the same can. It's all a perfect match. Little details, but they all match. So, another detail, and I saw this on Bitchin' Rides already. When Yamaha, if they make something similar to this, it ends at 1 inch from the end of the tank because they can't wrap a sticker around a tank. Well, when you paint things on, you wrap it right to the edge. And I remember a guy brought his Hemi Cuda or something in there, and they took off all the vinyl and masked off the trim. It's exactly the same as the vinyl, but when it go around the door edge and around the hood and whatever, a little detail, it made for a custom that looks perfect instead of something that looks like almost custom, almost perfect. All small details. Now that FZR logo, and John was basically behind that, but it flips to the other side. They're not exactly the same. And boy, it's all done with masking tape. There's no pattern. That was a labor of love, but it defines the bike. And this emblem that's going to be on the MT-09 is going to look like the factory made it, and nobody's going to have a sticker exactly the same. It'll be worth it to me. And it's the small thing. John Cafaro told me one time, and he was a designer at General Motors, Corvette designer. He told me many, many times how important the badging is. And I never really took it seriously, John, sadly enough, until I did the Ferrari bike. And he helped me. He provided the badges. So, and he is a Ferrari owner, by the way. So here, R1. These are the little details that I think make the bike. And if they're wrong, it looks less than what it could be. So I had this thought that the day Craig left, and he's going to be here, I think, another couple of days. I'm not sure. I haven't been keeping track of it. But that I wanted him to enjoy his visit. We've been doing minimum shop time, just while he's busy running his business. But what I wanted to do is, John is already working on stuff. I'm already working. We have concept sketches. We've got a couple of the little details already painted. We know the paint is a really good match. That'll be good. So if I decide to paint this blue, and I've seen some, if you look up custom MT-09s, people have painted that blue. You actually can buy these parts in carbon fiber. Vlad has a source for them. But I think they'll look best. What my plan is to paint them blue. See if I like them in blue, and if not, paint them shiny black, and then put the logo on. They come right off the bike with 2 snaps and a screw, so it's not a big deal, but it'll be a good match. I like the idea that we have carbon fiber here. We might have that gap filled in. The frame, this piece worked out great. I like the little frame covers. But again, it's all a work in progress, and when you do one of these, a lot of people do this all at once. They take the whole bike apart, and I like to do it like this, and like rearranging furniture and see how I'm going to like it. And this is going to be one of the defining parts of the bike, is that logo. And I'm hoping I can get Thomas Luciano to make me up a vinyl pattern, do it in airbrush. We'll see. We'll see where it's going to go. This is going to be a defining thing, the windshield. And if I get it right, if I don't somehow get it wrong, and the badging, this all will tie together. And I have the good thing is I have the whole winter to do it. But right now I got to figure out what I'm going to do about this egret. Now, just at this point, it's worth mentioning, I always like to ride a bike for at least 1 year before I sink in 400 or 500 hours on modifying it and restoring it. The reason is I want to be sure I like the bike, because it's crazy to do a bike and spend all these hours in it, and then a year later you say, gee, I wish I would have done a different bike. I would have done this bike or that bike. Now, it just turns out for me, and again, thank you, John Cafaro, for all the help with the Ferrari model planes and this FZR. But ride it first for a year. So the history of this pond is 27 years ago, Craig and I dug the pond. George Venturini helped me with the rocks, and we did this, and I've had many fish over the years, but it does not look like the egret got any fish. Now, because they're in hibernation, they tend to go to the bottom of the pond, and you can see they don't even move. They look like they're in decoupage or something. But what happens is when that egret is here, he basically sits right along here. When I've seen him twice, and he was on the neighbor's garage roof the other day like a dinosaur. So I'm going to get that sound deterrent and maybe put it in one of those flower pots, right where it'll be right where he doesn't want to hear it. I don't know if that's going to work. The internet people say it will work. So we're going to find out. Now, this is what we bought last summer. Clear Earth. It's an ultrasonic, and it emits a sound that animals are annoyed with and don't want to hang around. It did work up to a point with the groundhog, but we had so many groundhogs, we actually trapped 3 of them and took them to Giant Stadium. And then we got this one as an even more powerful one that really makes, hopefully, this is the heavy duty unit. I guess we're going to, but what I decided to do, I'm going to go out by the pond and figure out how to wire them both in right where the egret is the happiest. And if this works, I'll pass the info on for people like Chuck and Dave that have ponds. Good information. And if here's the test. If this is working and the egret's standing right there, this isn't going to deter him, then we have to go to plan B. Now, this thing emits a sound that people can't hear, but there's a little test light, and so if you walk in front of it, you can see the little test light goes on and off, and it tells you that, and you can actually just hear a vibration in there. There's a little speaker. This is where he's been checking out our fish here, so again, I hope I don't have to ever see him again. No, I did a test on these, but believe me, you can't hear it, but there's a little red light on there. And the one up here, the real heavy duty one, well, we're going to find out if it works. I'll report if we see the egret again, because believe me, I treasure these fish. It's one of the only the few relaxing parts of my life. So with the egret behind me, I wanted to get a rough idea, and I don't need to have an exact pattern yet, a rough idea of how big this piece of carbon would be, a rough idea, a little piece that might fit in there. I want to make up a couple of rough patterns because that'll allow me to figure out how much of a sheet I need to make. And I'm not going to get to do it today, but that egret, I tell you, I can't sleep at night thinking about him eating my fish. Now I have to account for that on this side. That piece would have to have a hole in it so you can get the screwdriver in and adjust the shock, but that's no big deal. We'll take that into account when we make the pattern. Now all the parts I made from carbon fiber I've already made on video, and this is the carbon that Dave Midgley and Dick Hewitt provided for me. And thank you guys for sponsoring my channel. This is called twill. And so what happens is the parts, these are the parts that Vlad got me, the carbon fiber parts, and they're beautiful, by the way. Thank you, Vlad. These are twill that are an exact match, and even the part I made for the dashboard where the clock is and the brackets, they're all exact matching twill. So I want to have these parts, if I'm going to ultimately make them, I want them to be twill. Both of these parts are a very odd and unique shape, so I want to, before I do anything, I want to get some idea, and I just do this by eye. And it's always easier if you have Cheerios boxes, seem to be about the best. But I can rough this out in paper and then transpose it onto the cardboard. So here's our good old-fashioned Cheerios boxes. And this is just roughly, and always the first one oversize. So once I have this oversize, then I can start shaving it back little by little by little. And this will let me know how big of a piece of carbon I can make, because I'm limited. I can't make a 4x8 sheet. So I know if I need 2 of these and 2 of these, and I can fit it on one piece, that'll just save me a lot of work and a lot of material. So after a lifetime of modeling, I can see right away I've got that angle needs to go further back. And we can do that, and I'm hitting on the top. So I just little by little by little now shave this down, and hopefully at the end of it, if I go too far, I just make up a new piece. But little by little by little, because I want to have that shape. Now the other side is going to need a hole for the shock adjustment, but if I can get this, this will just allow me. Now again, I'm limited in how big of a piece of carbon fiber is convenient to make. You sure can make it if you have tables and different things, but I'm limited. So I know that's going to fit there, that's going to fit there. I'm still hard on the top. So now I know if I just keep doing this, eventually I'm going to have it a little bit too small. Then I'll go back to the next Cheerios box, and you better keep eating those Cheerios too. But eventually, if you have the idea of how to do this, and you eat enough Cheerios, now we're in the back, we've got to come back down, more of an angle, and I'll nip this off a little by little, just by eye. This part doesn't have to be real accurate right now. And I thought about even making this piece out of aluminum and maybe making it blue. I don't know. I don't know yet. What always works for me the best is to just do it one step at a time and then have John confirm it. John has a real good eye for these things. Karen gets the final vote, of course. If Karen says paint it blue, it's going to be blue. But now that looks, I'm hitting in the back. I wanted to show this in real time one time just to see if this was of some value to some of my friends that have not been modelers, but they still want to be able to make up a pattern like this. Okay, so there it is in real time. That's roughly going to be our pattern. Now when we transpose that out onto carbon, I'll leave what I call an ink line. It's really a sharper line, Sharpie marker, and I'll leave that bigger and then grind it, sand it until it fits right in there. And then I have to figure out how I want to attach it. Obviously that's a whole nother issue. Now that part now I think, and I'll go over to the other side to make sure these are symmetrical. And a lot of times you think they are, but they're not. Now you never know if these are going to be symmetrical or not, and lucky for me they are. Really good. Oh, that really is lucky. We have the same. And the hole for the shock will be pretty easy to predict. Right about there I'll need to drill a hole. And actually I can put on one of these little covers and take it off when I want to adjust the shock. But I think a little detail like this is going to change the whole look of a motorcycle for a couple of days of work that won't even be a big challenge. And it's time we made some extra carbon fiber anyway. Yeah, that's going to work. Cleaning this side of the frame up is a big part of what I wanted to do. Now this is just a little overkill here. I wanted to put some black tape on this pattern. Or I could just paint it black with flat black paint. To get some idea, a little bit better idea what this would look like. And I could just trim this off with a scissor, but cleaning up this side of the frame I think is going to make for a nicer look of the motorcycle, and it's not going to add any weight that you can measure, and it's just going to set this bike apart in a crowd of bikes with the bolts sticking out and loose ends and chicken feet coming out of the tank and stuff. All little details, but there's 100 of them. Now, of course, everything in life is subjective, including this. But here's a before and after. And what I do then, I can go down to my computer, put them both up on the screen on a big monitor. I have two big monitors, and I can see, well, one side I see the bolts, one side I don't. How would that look carbon fiber? How would it look in blue? Maybe in silver. Who knows, to match the wheels. We're going to find out. Now, as well as the logo, when we get that finalized, having that piece of the frame filled in, wow, is that going to make a difference? To me, that, and when it's carbon fiber, it'll look better than black tape. Now, I'm not sure about this piece here and how I want to do it, or if I want to do it, but right now, that was the goal of the day, was to get a final pattern. I know how much I'm going to need on the carbon fiber. I'll save the other one for another day, but this right now is going to be my measurement for how much carbon fiber I need to make in the next batch. And we'll probably do that in the next few days. Now, of course, I'm trying to look at it from a lot of different angles. How's that going to fit? How's it going to look? How's it going to blend in? Right. That to me is one of the details. And again, I said there's 100 of them that make a bike just a little bit custom. It's got to look like the factory made it. But then when somebody else, even somebody with an MT-09 looks at it and says, oh, my wheels aren't polished, my exhaust isn't polished. It's got to look like it comes from the factory, not from, something that's too unusual. So now that piece in the back, just thinking of something here before I go, because we got to go shopping. That piece is another one that's going to be difficult to figure out how to get it exactly right. But once it's right, it's going to be, I think, a nice addition to the bike. We'll see. Now, I made a few extra patterns while I had a few minutes while Karen's getting ready for our shopping escapades. I made a few just to see what these would look like. And I didn't get a chance yet to either paint that black or whatever, but it doesn't matter. What I needed, with this whole thing, I needed that shape and that shape. So the next time I get to have a work session, what I'll be able to do is lay out the perimeter of how much, or I got to do it in 2 batches. I don't know. I got to check my inventory on carbon fiber here. Anyway, this was really, really a productive day. I'm really surprised, especially if you're not an egret. And as always, I want to look at it from a lot of different angles. I want to take some photos so I can look at it on my computer on a big monitor, and then I can compare it. I can put one on the left side of the screen, one on the right, and I can see what it looks like. So I have the patterns, I have the parts I need now to go ahead with making up the carbon fiber. So that was pretty productive. I really think we thank Cheerios for that little help. Anyway, that was a productive morning. But we have family stuff to do. So you want to go kill that egret? Don't kill him. We don't want to kill him. We just don't feed him either. We want to feed these little birds here. Oh, you don't have egrets out in Colorado, do you?
We got another giant dinosaur-like.
Now, this is funny. Craig and I were reading the directions for these 2 machines, the ultrasonic, and what they do, I didn't realize this until I read the full directions. They detect warm bodies up to 52 feet in 120 degree direction. So this will be real interesting. Now, I'm going to find out, because when Mike next door walks his dog here, if the dog usually likes to look at the fish. If the dog doesn't like that, I'll know that's emitting something irritating anyway. But it said it works on ducks and geese. I hope it works on egrets too. We got to go shopping. This is pretty funny. My neighbor Mike, of course, he was on his garage this morning. While we're out shopping, he's gonna keep an eye on the pond for us. Now we have probably a half a day of errands to do, so this may be a very short day. Oh, how I love shopping. Shopping and carbon fiber. Just another day and another egret. Well, we're back at last, and it looks like our test wheel is ready to dismount, and he served his purpose well. That was a good little project. Now, to be honest, I never thought this paint would work out as well as it did. It shocked me how good it worked out. I just need to do the tape test now to see if I've got a good bond between the paint and the raw aluminum. Now, one final little paint test I wanted to do here with the wheel, and this is the part of the wheel that's been sanded down to bare aluminum. So we hope this is going to be a good test. But I let the wheel warm up here. It's at ambient temperature. Press the tape down. This is the tape we normally use to do this. And pull it up slow. Pull it up fast. It's always a good idea to do this too. Make sure anytime you're doing anything like this. Now, nothing is stickier than fresh Gorilla Tape. So if Gorilla Tape doesn't take off the paint, and I guess we're in good shape. Well, I guess that eliminates my main concern was that we wouldn't have a good adhesion. The smoothness I'm not worried about because I didn't prep the wheel. We got a couple of runs in here, it doesn't even matter. And I'm not worried about buffing it out because the truth is, if this is prepped up properly, the way this final coat of clear laid out, I don't think there's any reason we won't even have to buff it out. That'll be a big saving too. So I think this whole paint test thing was just nothing but a win-win in every way you could possibly win. But we'll find out very soon. So as I mentioned before, I don't think I could be happier with the way the paint testing went. And I think it's going to be when we actually get to do the MT09 wheels, we're going to really have some nice product at the end, I hope. Anyway, and we're going to eat. Craig's up there making another gourmet meal for us. I don't know what, but maybe he doesn't either. I don't know. Anyway, this was a very, very productive day. And getting those patterns done, that's going to be good because the next couple of days, if Craig wants, I'll even show him how I do it. Make the carbon fiber from scratch. And I hope the biggest thing, I hope the egret is taking a nice sunny vacation somewhere other than in my pond. So again, as I look at the workbench at the end of the day, I always try to shoot a few pictures just for my own satisfaction. A very productive day, maybe a day we got rid of the egret for good, I hope. But we did learn something with that paint. Now, and that you don't think that's significant until you look back at some of the wheels I've painted. And the RD wheel, the original RD wheels, the paint got way too thick on that. And that was one of the things I needed, a lot of primer. I was sanding primer. The paint just got too thick. When you can keep the paint thin on a wheel, it is, boy, big to your advantage. It's a giant advantage. Now, when we actually do that MT09 wheel, and again, we're not going to do it till Craig leaves, I am really confident now. I feel like we have a real good shot at really raising the bar on painting wheels. So we try to shoot video and share it every day. Hope we'll be able to share it with you tomorrow. So if you enjoyed the video, I hope you share it with your friends. And of course, I hope most of all that we'll see you tomorrow. And thanks again for watching.